It's May of 2022 and Top Gun Maverick is right around the corner. In fact, it's less than a week away and the early reviews are coming across very positive. We've waited a long time for this one, with the initial release date being July of 2019. The global pandemic pushed things back to May of this year. The trailer looks incredible. Hans Zimmer is joining Harold Faltermeyer on the score, and Microsoft are releasing a free expansion pack for Microsoft Flight Simulator, which looks insane. But what if it wasn't 2022? What if it was December of 1986 and Pete Maverick Mitchell was about to soar through our computer screens in the video game Top Gun? Top Gun was developed and published by British company Ocean Software and released on Amstrad, Commodore 64 and the ZX Spectrum. The copy I have here is for the Commodore 64 and was a budget re-release by the Hit Squad in 1989. Now I know what you're thinking. Top Gun is an action-packed, adrenaline-fueled, exhilarating movie, so the game's got to be similar, right? Well, not quite. The very first game was somewhat criticised for its graphics and gameplay. To think we had games like Ghostbusters in 1984, which was 2 years earlier, Top Gun didn't quite look that impressive. Reviews described the graphics as non-existent. One reviewer writing, "Combat conveniently takes place at night, giving Ocean Software an excuse for black backgrounds in cockpit views." Though while there were mixed reviews and concerns over graphics and gameplay, Top Gun was a commercial success, and in 3 years it had sold over 500,000 copies. So did fans just have to put up with a mediocre but somewhat playable game? Almost, at least until a year later. In December of 1987, Konami releases Top Gun exclusively for the Nintendo NES. Jump back into the cockpit of an F-14 fighter jet and play across 4 levels, blowing up aircraft carriers, battling MiG-28s, and even a final mission outside the Earth's atmosphere in space. Top Gun on Nintendo NES was another commercial hit. It was a top-selling game in the United States for 2 weeks in 1988. The graphics were updated, the sound improved, and the gameplay renewed, allowing you to land your jet and refuel to mix up the experience. Through 1989, its sales has surpassed 1.8 million copies in America alone, eventually surpassing 2 million copies. In fact, the game did so well, Konami followed up 2 years later with a sequel, Top Gun: The Second Mission. As expected, the graphics and the sound were improved, and the gameplay and controls were praised, with a newly added feature allowing you now to barrel roll the F-14 Tomcat.
Because I was inverted.
Konami would hold on to the Top Gun games and release 2 more combat flight simulators under the Top Gun brand. Top Gun Danger Zone in 1991 and Top Gun Guts and Glory for Nintendo's Game Boy in 1993. Though fans needed a game changer, at least from a graphical perspective, the 8-bit era was fizzling out, the 16-bit era was in full motion, and the 32-bit era was just about to take us places that we'd never been before. Games were now on compact discs rather than cassettes or cartridges, allowing for live motion video and studio quality audio. The PC was also becoming a popular choice for gamers, along with the release of the Sony PlayStation in the Christmas of 1994. So in December of 1995 for Windows and June 1996 for PlayStation, Top Gun Fire at Will was released by Spectrum Holobyte and Microprose. Now in full 3D glory, you were taking on the mighty wings and playing with the boys. Not only did you have a graphically cool 3D flight simulator, you had Command & Conquer style FMV sequences too. James Tolkien reprised his role as a commanding officer.
Alright, who we got up there? Cougar, Wizard, Merlin, Maverick. Great, Maverick and Merlin.
Top Gun Fire at Will had you play as Maverick, of course, heading out to combat in Cuba, North Korea and Libya against a secret group of mercenaries called the Cadre, and the game's soundtrack had the classic hit Highway to the Danger Zone.
Bound, range 150 miles, copy? Take it easy, we don't know who these guys are.
However, it wasn't performed by Kenny Loggins himself. It was performed by Mary Elizabeth McGlynn, presumably for royalty reasons. The version on the Sony PlayStation differs quite a lot from the PC version. For PlayStation 1, action was prioritised over simulation, and in particular, taking off and landing was removed from the game entirely. Gameplay began almost mid-dogfight, rather than having to search and hunt your enemy down. The PC version had all the content included, as well as networked multiplayer. While fans finally had a true 3D Top Gun game, the reviews weren't that great. One reviewer was quoted saying, "Top Gun Fire at Will was a lacking flight simulator with lacking video clips holding together a lame plot." However, they went on to compliment the game's graphics and networked multiplayer, but overall having a negative review on the game. A sequel to Fire at Will was in development. Top Gun's Hornet's Nest was released in 1998 for Windows by developer Zipper Interactive, who are most famous for the SOCOM Navy SEALs games. The reviews came in subpar and the game was condemned for lack of realism and poor flight mechanics. GameSpot called the game a mistargeted, ill-designed mess that was too tough for beginners and too silly for experts. I guess James Tolkien reprising his role again wasn't enough to mask out the poor gameplay and design, though somehow Top Gun's Hornet's Nest was a top-selling game in the United States in April of 1999. Fast forward to 2001, and Fluid Studios create Top Gun Firestorm for Game Boy Color and Game Boy Advance, an isometric combat flight simulator that resembles the 1992 classic by Electronic Arts, Desert Strike. Graphically, these games were noticeably different, with the Game Boy Color version losing out to the superior version on the Game Boy Advance. Another release in 2001 was Top Gun Combat Zones, developed by British studio Digital Integration for Sony PlayStation 2. It followed up a year later on Nintendo GameCube, as well as a version for Windows and Game Boy Advance. Combat Zones was average at best according to Metacritic. Reviewers noted that other than the title, the game really didn't have any relation to the movie. I mean, come on, not even a mini-game that lets you play shirtless volleyball. That would have been a great addition, right? The GameCube version was supposedly an improvement over its PS2 counterpart, with higher quality graphics and better controls. Though while not quite a regular combat flight simulator, critics favoured Star Wars Rogue Squadron 2 that was released later in the year. In 2003 and 2004, two mobile games were released. Top Gun Air Combat and Air Combat 2 were launched for Java ME. These were top-down vertical arcade shooters, similar to Striker's 1945, but most definitely not up to the same standard as the 1995 classic. In February 2006, Top Gun for the Nintendo DS was released. The dual screen allowed for gameplay prominently to be featured on the top screen, while weapons and maps to be featured on the lower screen. The game was disappointingly received, and Metacritic giving it a mid-score of 48%. Another Java ME shooter was released in 2006, titled Top Gun Golf Crisis, resembling Sega's 1987 classic, Afterburner. It was now 2007, and another Top Gun game surfaced on the PlayStation 2, developed by Atomic Planet Entertainment and oddly only having a European release. The gameplay was shockingly bad, and the graphics were arguably worse than the 2001 release of Top Gun Combat Zones. 2 years later, Atomic Planet Entertainment went into administration. Skipping forward to 2009, and another Afterburner clone was in the works, this time for iOS and making use of the accelerometer and touch firing controls. The game was later ported to the Sony PlayStation Portable in 2011. We surpassed the noughties and moved swiftly into 2010 with another iOS release. Similar to its predecessor in 2009, Top Gun 2 had touchscreen controls and generally had satisfactory reviews. Another release for 2010, another goat buzzing the tower, and another game titled You Got It, Top Gun. Developed by Double Six and published by Paramount Digital Entertainment, Top Gun was released on PlayStation 3 and Windows, though Metacritic once again gave it unfavourable reviews. Finally, 2 years later, in March of 2012, the Xbox 360 received its first Top Gun game, Top Gun Hardlock. Developed by Headstrong Games, it was also released for the PlayStation 3 and Windows platforms. Hardlock featured a unique hardlock mode that allowed the player to perform air combat maneuvers that delivered visual payoffs to enhance the flight movements. It had 14 missions with your overall objective to defeat a terrorist regime in the Persian Gulf. Progressing through the game, the player performs bombing runs over bunkers and enemy camps, with the final mission assisting NATO ground forces attacking the extremists. Hardlock received a mediocre 54%, with reviewers feeling that the game was fun but repetitive at times. So there you have it. I think we covered every Top Gun game from 1986 to 2012, be it on home computer, console or mobile. An honourable retro mention goes back to 1989, with Konami releasing two handheld LCD games, a grey version titled Top Gun and a blue version titled The Second Mission, based off the Nintendo games on the NES. Tying in with the 30th anniversary of the movie in 2016, Playtech released a digital slot machine game with Top Gun. It made a simple slot machine casino game very good by using music and movie quotes. Top Gun Legends is another vertical shooter that looks fun and fast-paced. There are a few YouTube videos of this game from 2020, and it's still available on the Google Play Store. Though when trying to download it, it simply says pre-register. I can only assume this was postponed like Top Gun Maverick back in 2019, and will eventually be taking release again with a new movie next week. On the 27th of April 2022, Bandai Namco released a screenshot letting fans know that downloadable content was soon to be available for Ace Combat 7. However, the tweet has since been deleted and no other news has been released. Though on the 19th of May 2022, Bandai Namco released a teaser trailer to all social media platforms. And on the 26th of May, it will be releasing downloadable aircraft content in collaboration with Top Gun Maverick to tie in with the movie. So I think that's everything covered. A brief look back at Top Gun in video games, LCD handhelds, and even slot machines. Out of 20 Top Gun games on home computer and video game consoles, it's hard to believe that not one was an all-out classic. The movie has obviously become an 80s cult classic. In fact, I'm going to watch it later tonight. I still listen to the motion picture soundtrack at least on a weekly basis. I kind of feel like a cheap trick has been missed here. Out of everything that we've looked at, there really wasn't one that could take my breath away. After all, where was Top Gun the arcade game? Sat glowing in neon blue lights in the corner of a dusty arcade while the Top Gun anthem plays from its speakers. It could have been a sit-down arcade shooter just like Afterburner. Why was there no 16-bit releases for the Super Nintendo or Sega Mega Drive? Just imagine if Sega had picked up the Top Gun license. Would Afterburner have been a different name? Perhaps the isometric version of Top Gun Firestorm would have done better in the 90s, just like Desert Strike did. After all, that had 4 sequels. And what will the Top Gun Maverick experience be like on Microsoft Flight Simulator? And will the Ace Combat DLC be better? And will Top Gun Maverick live up to the hype it's getting from its early reviews? We'll find out on Wednesday, but for now, I guess it's classified.